The wedding day arrived with perfect weather, sunny, warm, a light breeze that made the trees rustle in ways I couldn't hear but could see. The universe, it seemed, had decided to give Noah one last gift before I took everything else away. I woke up early in my apartment, got dressed in the simple blue dress I'd worn to the engagement party. No fancy outfit, no attempts to fit in with the wealthy guests who'd be attending. This wasn't about looking good. It was about being present for my own reckoning. Marcus picked me up at 2 p.m. The wedding wasn't until 5 p.m., but we wanted to arrive early, scope out the venue, make sure our technical setup would work flawlessly. The Sterling family estate was exactly what you'd expect from oil money, sprawling, ostentatious, beautiful in that cold, untouchable way that rich people love. The wedding was being held in their private garden, a massive space with manicured lawns, flower beds arranged in perfect geometric patterns, and a gazebo decorated with thousands of white roses. My mother's dream wedding, Noah's fairy tale, and soon the setting for my truth. We parked in the guest lot, and Marcus pulled out his laptop. "Okay, let's go over this one more time." He showed me the program he'd written. At exactly 8 p.m., the presentation would begin playing on the main screen that had been set up for the photo slideshow. The audio would come through the venue's sound system, and simultaneously, emails would go out to every guest with a link to view it on their phones. "All I have to do is press this button," Marcus signed, showing me the trigger on his phone. "And it's done, no way to stop it." "What if they cut the power?" I signed. "Battery backup," he signed back. I thought of everything. I looked at him, this cousin who'd become my ally, my friend, my brother in all the ways that mattered. "Thank you," I signed, "for everything." "Don't thank me yet," he signed. "Wait until we see how this plays out." At 4 p.m., guests started arriving. I watched from a distance as they made their way through the garden, greeting my mother and grandmother, admiring the decorations, posing for photos. 200 people, dressed in their finest, ready to celebrate love and happiness and the joining of two perfect families. They had no idea what was coming. At 4:30 p.m., I saw Cameron arrive. He was in his tux, looking handsome and nervous, and when he spotted me standing by the parking lot, he came over. "You're really here," he said. "I'm really here," I confirmed. "Are you really going to do this?" "Yes." He nodded slowly. "I figured. For what it's worth, I think you're incredibly brave or incredibly stupid, possibly both." "What about you?" I asked. "Are you still getting married?" "I don't know," he admitted. "I've been asking myself that all week. Part of me wants to call it off right now, make a statement. But another part of me thinks maybe I can change things from the inside, be a better influence on this family." "You can't fix them," I said. "Trust me, I've tried." "Maybe not," he said, "but I can try to make sure they don't damage anyone else the way they damaged you." The wedding march started playing, and Cameron straightened his tie. "That's my cue. Whatever happens tonight, Maren, I hope you find peace." He walked toward the gazebo, and I watched him go, wondering if he'd still be married by midnight. The ceremony itself was beautiful. I'll give my mother that. Noah looked stunning in her designer dress. The flowers were perfect. The string quartet played flawlessly. I sat in the back row, exactly where my mother had wanted me, and watched my sister marry her millionaire while 200 guests cried happy tears. I didn't cry, I just waited. The reception started at 6:30 p.m. in a tent that had been set up on the lawn. Dinner was served, champagne flowed, people laughed and danced and celebrated. The photo slideshow played on the main screen, Noah and Cameron as children, as teenagers, their courtship, their engagement. Perfect moments from perfect lives. At 7:45 p.m., the toasts began. My mother went first, giving a speech about how proud she was of Noah, how beautiful the wedding was, how blessed their family was. People applauded. At 7:58 p.m., Marcus sent me a text. 2 minutes, last chance to stop this. I looked around the tent, at my mother glowing with pride, at Noah radiant with happiness, at all the guests who'd never once asked why the bride's sister wasn't in the wedding party, why I sat alone in the back, why I mattered so little. I texted back, "Do it." At exactly 8 p.m., the photo slideshow ended. There was a brief moment of darkness, and then my face appeared on the screen. The room went quiet. And my voice, my real voice, the one they'd tried so hard to silence, began to speak. "My name is Maren Fox," my recorded voice said through the sound system, "and I have a story to tell." I watched the room from my position in the back, watched confusion ripple through the crowd as people turned to look at the screen at me, trying to understand what was happening. My mother stood up from her table, her face already going pale. "Turn it off," she said, but no one moved. The presentation continued. "For 19 years, I've been the invisible daughter, the one who didn't matter, the one who could be ignored, dismissed, and forgotten because my sister was prettier, more charming, more valuable." Photos appeared on the screen, childhood pictures showing the visible difference in how Noah and I were treated. Birthday parties I never had, awards I won that were never celebrated. "But I accepted it," my voice continued. "I told myself that some people are just meant to be in the background, until 6 months ago when something happened that changed everything." The medical records appeared, the surgery details, the prognosis that my hearing could be partially restored with treatment costing $15,000. People in the audience started whispering. I could see them turning to each other, confused, concerned. "My mother knew about this treatment," my voice said. "She knew I could get better, but she made a different choice." The text message appeared on screen, the one about silver linings and saved money. A collective gasp went through the crowd. "She decided that my hearing loss was convenient," my voice continued. "That the money she'd spend on helping me could be better used for this wedding, for ice sculptures and designer flowers and the perfect celebration of my sister's perfect life." More evidence appeared, audio recordings of my mother telling the wedding planner to minimize my presence, videos of family events where I was deliberately excluded, text exchanges showing how she'd cut costs by removing me from the wedding party. My mother was shouting now, trying to get to the technical booth, but Marcus had locked himself in and wasn't answering. Security guards looked confused, unsure whether to intervene. "I'm not showing you this to hurt my family," my voice said, and my face appeared on screen again. "I'm showing you this because I deserve to be seen. For 19 years, I've been invisible. For 19 years, I've been the daughter who didn't matter. But I matter, my story matters, and I'm done being silent." The presentation ended. The screen went dark. For a moment, there was absolute silence in the tent. 200 people staring at the blank screen, processing what they'd just seen. Then phones started buzzing as the email with the full presentation went out to every guest. Chaos erupted. People jumped up from their tables, some rushing toward me, others toward my mother, still others just standing there in shock. My grandmother was crying. Noah was frozen at the head table, her face white. Cameron had his arm around her but was staring at my mother with an expression I couldn't quite read. My mother pushed through the crowd toward me. Her face was scarlet, tears streaming down her cheeks, but they weren't tears of sadness, they were tears of rage. "You selfish, vindictive, ungrateful," she started, but I cut her off. "Don't," I said, standing up to face her. "Don't you dare call me selfish. Don't you dare pretend I'm the villain here. You ruined your sister's wedding. You ruined my life." The crowd around us had gone silent, everyone listening to this confrontation that had been 19 years in the making. "Everything I did was for this family," my mother said, her voice shaking. "Every choice, every sacrifice." "You never sacrificed anything," I said. "You sacrificed me. You traded my hearing, my health, my happiness for social status and a fancy party. And you did it without hesitation, without guilt, because you never saw me as worth as much as her." I pointed at Noah, who was still sitting at the head table, tears running down her face. "I loved you," I continued, my own voice breaking now. "I loved you, and I tried so hard to make you love me back, but nothing was ever enough. I was never enough." "Maren," my mother started. "No," I said. I'm done listening to you. I'm done being quiet while you pretend to be Mother of the Year. Everyone here just saw the truth. They saw the texts, heard the recordings, watched the evidence. They know what you are now." My mother looked around at the crowd, at the faces that had turned from sympathetic to horrified, and I watched something in her break. "Get out," she said quietly. "Get out of this wedding right now." "Gladly," I said. I grabbed my purse and walked toward the exit. The crowd parted to let me through, and I felt their eyes on me, some pitying, some admiring, some still shocked. Marcus met me at the door. "That was the most insane thing I've ever witnessed," he signed. "Can we go?" I signed back. "Already calling the Uber," he signed. We walked out of that tent, out of that estate, out of my old life. Behind us, I could hear shouting, crying, the sound of a perfect wedding dissolving into chaos. And I felt nothing, not triumph, not regret, just emptiness. "You okay?" Marcus signed when we got to the parking lot. "Ask me tomorrow," I signed back. We drove away from the Sterling estate in silence, and for the first time in my life, I had no idea what came next. I spent the next 3 days in my apartment, refusing to answer calls or check social media. Marcus brought me food, made sure I was eating, but otherwise gave me space. I needed time to process what I'd done, what it meant, what came next. On day 4, my grandmother came to visit. I opened the door to find her standing there with a container of homemade cookies and an expression that was equal parts love and disappointment. "Can I come in?" she asked. I let her in, and we sat on my air mattress because I still didn't have furniture. "That was quite a wedding," she said finally. "I'm sorry you had to see it like that," I said. "I wish there'd been another way." "Did you," she asked, "really wish for another way?" I thought about it honestly. "No," I admitted. "I don't think I did. I wanted them to see. I wanted everyone to see." My grandmother nodded. "Well, they saw. The whole family saw. Half the city saw. Someone posted your presentation online. It's been viewed over 1 million times." My stomach dropped. "What?" "You're viral, sweetheart. People are calling you brave, calling your mother abusive, demanding accountability. There are think pieces about parental favoritism, disability rights, family dynamics. You've started a conversation." I didn't know how to feel about that. I'd wanted exposure, wanted truth, but I hadn't thought about it spreading beyond that wedding tent. "What about Mom?" I asked, "and Noah?" "Your mother is in crisis mode," my grandmother said. "Denying everything, claiming you edited the recordings, saying you've always been unstable. Most people aren't buying it." "And Noah?" "Noah and Cameron postponed the honeymoon. They're in counseling, apparently, trying to figure out if they can move forward together after everything that came out." I felt a pang of guilt. I didn't mean to ruin their marriage. "You didn't ruin it," my grandmother said firmly. "You exposed problems that were already there. Whether they can work through those problems is up to them." We sat in silence for a moment, eating cookies. "Are you mad at me?" I asked. "Yes," my grandmother said. "And no, I'm mad that you felt you had to go to such extreme lengths. I'm sad about what this has done to our family, but I'm also proud that you found your voice and used it. Even though it hurt people." "Sometimes the truth hurts," she said. "That doesn't make it less necessary." She stood up to leave, then turned back. "For what it's worth, Maren, I think you were right. About everything. Your mother did fail you. The family did fail you. And I'm sorry it took something this dramatic to make us see it." After she left, I finally opened my phone. Thousands of messages. Hundreds of friend requests. DMs from strangers telling me I was brave, from other people sharing their own stories of family favoritism, from reporters asking for interviews. And one message from Cameron. "Maren, can we talk? Not about the wedding, about moving forward. I think I have an idea that might help everyone." I stared at that message for a long time before responding. "Okay, when and where?" I met Cameron at a quiet cafe downtown 3 days later. He was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table with 2 cups of coffee. "Thanks for coming," he said as I sat down. "What did you want to talk about?" I asked. He took a deep breath. First, I want to apologize for not seeing what was happening sooner, for letting your mother treat you that way at events I attended, for being complicit in your invisibility. I hadn't expected that. Thank you. Second, I want to help, if you're willing to accept it. Help how? The hearing treatment you need, he said. Let me pay for it, not as a bribe, not as guilt money, but because it's the right thing to do and because I have the money to do it without even feeling it. I started to protest, but he held up a hand. Before you say no, hear me out. Your mother used money as a weapon against you. She made you feel like you didn't deserve medical care because it would cost too much. I want to take that weapon away from her. I want you to get the treatment you need so you can move forward with your life without the burden of what she did. I can't accept that, I said. It's too much. It's $15,000, Cameron said. I spend more than that on a car. Let me do this, Maren. Let me do one thing right in this whole mess. I sat back, overwhelmed. Why? Why do you care? Because I'm marrying into this family, he said. Or I was, or I might be. Honestly, I'm still figuring that out. But regardless, I saw what your mother did to you and I can't just ignore it. I have resources. I can help, so let me. I thought about refusing, about maintaining my independence, proving I didn't need anyone's help. But then I thought about Dr. Rashid, about the possibility of hearing again, about taking back one more thing my mother had tried to steal from me. Okay, I said quietly. Thank you. Cameron smiled. Good. I'll set up a meeting with Dr. Rashid this week. We'll get the process started. What about Noah? I asked. And the wedding, are you still? I don't know, he admitted. We're in therapy, trying to work through whether we can build a life together when her family is what it is, and whether she can acknowledge her role in what happened to you. Has she, I asked, acknowledged it? She's trying, Cameron said. It's hard for her to see her mother clearly, but she's starting to understand that what happened to you wasn't okay, that she participated in something cruel, even if she didn't fully realize it at the time. Is she angry at me? Yes, but she's also angry at herself, angry at your mother, angry at the whole situation. It's complicated. Everything was complicated. Cameron and I talked for another hour. He told me about the fallout from the wedding, about my mother's attempts to control the narrative, about family members taking sides. Some supported me, some thought I'd gone too far, some were still trying to figure out what to believe. The thing is, Cameron said, you've made it impossible for anyone to pretend everything was fine. You've forced everyone to choose. Either they acknowledge that what happened to you was wrong, or they defend your mother's actions. There's no middle ground anymore. Is that a good thing? I asked. I think so, he said, even if it's painful. When we parted ways, Cameron gave me his lawyer's contact information for setting up the medical payments. No strings attached, he said. Just get better. I walked home through the city streets, thinking about Cameron's words, about forcing people to choose, about the end of pretending. My phone buzzed. Another message, this one from Noah. Can we meet? Just the two of us. I need to talk to you. I stared at that message for a long time. My sister, the golden child, the reason for so much of my pain. Did I want to talk to her? Did I want to hear whatever she had to say? I didn't know, but I texted back anyway. When? Noah and I met at a park near my old neighborhood. Neutral ground, public space, somewhere neither of us had history. She was waiting on a bench when I arrived, dressed in jeans and a sweater, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. She looked tired, older somehow than she had at the wedding 2 weeks ago. Hi, she said as I sat down beside her. Hi, I replied. We sat in awkward silence for a moment. I could see children playing on the swings, their laughter silent to my ears, but their joy visible in their movements. I don't know how to start this, Noah said finally. I've been rehearsing what to say for days, but now that you're here, it all feels inadequate. Then don't rehearse, I said. Just talk. She took a breath. I'm sorry for everything. For the wedding, for the years before that, for not seeing what Mom was doing, for benefiting from your invisibility and never questioning it. Okay, I said, because I didn't know what else to say. That's it, she asked. Just okay. What do you want me to say, Noah? That I forgive you. That we can go back to being sisters like none of this happened. I want you to give me a chance, she said. A chance to do better, to be better. Why? I asked. Why now? Why does it matter to you all of a sudden? Because I watched your presentation, she said quietly. I watched all 40 minutes of it, and I saw myself through your eyes for the first time. I saw how I treated you, how I participated in making you feel small, and I hated myself. Tears were running down her face now. I told myself I was innocent, she continued. That I was just following Mom's lead, that I didn't know how bad it was. But that's a lie. I knew. Maybe I didn't understand the full extent, but I knew you were being treated differently, and I didn't care because I benefited from it. Yes, I said simply, you did. Can you ever forgive me? I thought about that question, about the years of comparison, of being overlooked, of watching Noah get everything while I got nothing. I don't know, I said honestly. Maybe someday, but right now I'm still too angry. That's fair, she said. I deserve your anger. We sat in silence again, watching the children play. Cameron is paying for my hearing treatment, I said eventually. I know, he told me. I wanted to pay for it myself, but he said you'd be more likely to accept it from him than from me. He was right. Maren, Noah said, turning to face me. I need you to know something. I'm leaving Mom. I looked at her, surprised. Not just physically, she continued. I'm cutting her off. No more family dinners, no more playing along with her manipulations, no more pretending she's a good person. I can't have someone like that in my life, especially not if Cameron and I have kids someday. Cameron told you to do that? I asked. No, he told me I needed to make my own choice. So I did. I choose not to be like her. I choose not to raise my children the way she raised us. I choose to believe you deserved better and to make sure it never happens again to anyone. I felt something shift in my chest. Not forgiveness exactly, but maybe the beginning of understanding. What about the wedding? I asked. Are you still getting married? We postponed it indefinitely, Noah said. Until we work through some things. Until I work through some things. I can't marry Cameron while still carrying all this guilt and shame. It wouldn't be fair to either of us. I'm sorry, I said. I didn't want to ruin your wedding. You didn't ruin it, Noah said firmly. Mom did, you just exposed it. We talked for another hour. It wasn't forgiveness and it wasn't reconciliation, but it was honest. Raw, real. As we were leaving, Noah stopped me. Can I ask you something? Sure. Do you think we can ever be sisters again? Real sisters, not the broken version we were. I thought about it carefully. Maybe, if we both do the work, if you prove that this isn't just guilt talking, if I can learn to trust you again. I'll prove it, she said, however long it takes. I nodded and walked away. I didn't look back, but I didn't feel the same crushing weight I'd felt leaving the wedding. Maybe there was hope for us after all. Or maybe not. Either way, I was finally free to find out. The first therapy session for my hearing happened 2 weeks later. Dr. Rashid was thrilled when I came in with Cameron's check for the full amount. I knew we'd find a way, he said, smiling. I never doubted it. The treatment plan was aggressive. A high-quality hearing aid for my left ear, intensive therapy to help my brain relearn how to process sound, and potential surgery down the line if my hearing continued to improve. This isn't a miracle cure, Dr. Rashid warned. You won't get back everything you lost, but with work and time, you could regain enough hearing to function normally in most situations. That's all I want, I said, just enough to feel like myself again. The hearing aid was fitted that same day. When Dr. Rashid turned it on for the first time, I gasped. Sound, actual, real sound flooding back into my world. It wasn't perfect. Everything was tinny, slightly distorted, overwhelming in its intensity. But I could hear Dr. Rashid's voice, could hear the hum of the air conditioning, could hear my own breathing. I started crying and couldn't stop. "It's normal to be emotional," Dr. Rashid said gently. "You're regaining something you thought was gone forever. Take your time adjusting." I wore the hearing aid home, and the city sounded like a symphony. Car horns, sirens, voices, music spilling from storefronts, all of it overwhelming and wonderful and terrifying. Marcus was waiting at my apartment when I got back. "How'd it go?" he signed, then stopped when he saw my face. "Oh my God, you can hear." "Some," I said out loud, and then laughed because I could actually hear myself speaking. "Not perfectly, but some. It's amazing." He hugged me tight, and I could hear him laughing too, hear the joy in his voice when he said, "I'm so proud of you." The adjustment period was hard. My brain had to relearn how to filter sounds, prioritize what was important, tune out background noise. Some days the hearing aid gave me horrible headaches. Other days I took it out because the world was just too loud. But slowly, week by week, I got better. I could have conversations without lip reading, could listen to music again, could hear birds singing and rain falling and all the small sounds that make up a life. My mother never called to ask how I was doing, never texted, never emailed, never acknowledged that she'd been wrong about the treatment being too expensive or unnecessary. But I didn't need her acknowledgement anymore. I had proof that I'd been right all along. About a month into treatment, I got a call from a lawyer. Not Cameron's lawyer, a different one, representing several other family members. "Ms. Fox," the lawyer said, "I've been retained by your aunts and uncles to discuss potential legal action against your mother regarding her treatment of you and possible financial exploitation." I was stunned. "What?" "After your presentation at the wedding, several family members came forward with their own concerns about your mother's financial dealings. There are questions about inheritance money that may have been misappropriated, accounts that should have been in your name that weren't. We'd like to investigate further with your cooperation." I thought about it, about my mother facing actual legal consequences for what she'd done. "I need time to think about it," I said. "Of course, but Ms. Fox, you should know, you're not alone in this anymore. Your family sees what happened to you and they want to make it right." After I hung up, I sat in my apartment thinking about justice, accountability, and what I actually wanted. Did I want my mother in legal trouble? Did I want her to lose money, face lawsuits, be publicly humiliated beyond what had already happened? I didn't know. But I knew I wanted her to understand what she'd done, to truly understand in a way that couldn't be dismissed or denied. I called the lawyer back. "Tell them I'll cooperate," I said, "but only if we try mediation first. Give her one chance to make this right voluntarily before we bring in the courts." "That's very generous of you," the lawyer said. "It's not generosity," I said. "It's strategy. I want her to choose, to make the decision to do better rather than being forced into it. If she refuses, then we'll know exactly who she is." The mediation was scheduled for 3 weeks later. And I prepared myself for one final confrontation with the woman who'd traded my hearing for a wedding. The mediation took place in a conference room at a law office downtown. Neutral ground, legal oversight, witnesses to ensure everything stayed civil. My mother arrived with her own lawyer, looking like she'd aged 10 years in the past 2 months. She wore a conservative suit, minimal makeup, and an expression I'd never seen before, uncertainty. I came with Marcus and the family lawyer. Noah wasn't there. She'd made it clear she was on my side, but couldn't face our mother yet. Cameron sent his support through a text message. The mediator explained the ground rules. Each side would have a chance to speak, to present their case, to make requests. The goal was to reach an agreement that acknowledged harm and provided some form of restitution without going to court. My mother went first. "I want to start by saying that I never intended to hurt Maren," she said, her voice carefully controlled. "Everything I did, every choice I made, was what I thought was best for our family at the time." "That's not true," I interrupted. "You knew the hearing treatment was available. You chose the wedding over my health." "The wedding was important to Noah," my mother said. To our family's future. You have to understand the context. The context, I said, is that you valued a party more than your daughter's ability to hear. The mediator held up a hand. Let's try to stay focused on solutions rather than accusations. Ms. Fox, what would you like to see happen here? I took a deep breath. Marcus squeezed my hand under the table. I want 3 things, I said. First, I want my mother to acknowledge on the record and in writing that she made a choice to prioritize the wedding over my medical care. No excuses, no context, just the truth. My mother's lawyer started to object, but she stopped him. What else? The mediator asked. Second, I want restitution for the medical expenses Cameron covered. Not for me. I want my mother to donate that amount to an organization that helps deaf and hard-of-hearing young people get treatment they can't afford. That's $15,000, my mother's lawyer said. I'm aware, I said, and it's a fraction of what she spent on ice sculptures and flowers. The mediator made a note, and the third thing. I want her to admit that she treated Noah and me differently throughout our childhood, that the favoritism was real, deliberate, and harmful, and I want her to do it in a letter to every family member who attended the wedding. Silence in the room. My mother's lawyer leaned over to whisper to her. She listened, nodded, whispered back. My client is willing to make the charitable donation, the lawyer said finally, but she contends that the other requests amount to public humiliation rather than restitution. They amount to accountability, I countered. She humiliated me for 19 years. Now she gets to admit it publicly, or we can let the courts decide what happened and make it even more public. More whispering between my mother and her lawyer. Then, to my complete shock, my mother stood up. Can I speak directly to my daughter? She asked the mediator. If Ms. Fox agrees. I nodded, and my mother turned to face me. Maren, she said, and her voice was shaking. You're right about all of it. I did prioritize the wedding over your health. I did treat you and Noah differently. I did make you feel worthless, invisible, less than. I stared at her, not trusting this sudden honesty. I told myself it was because Noah needed more support, more guidance, that you were stronger, more independent, didn't need me as much. But that was a lie. The truth is that Noah was easier to love. She was charming and beautiful and everything I wanted to be when I was young. And you reminded me of all my failures, of the daughter I was, the mother I became, so I pushed you away. Tears were streaming down her face now. I thought I could make up for my own missed opportunities by living through Noah, by giving her everything I never had. And in the process, I destroyed you. I see that now. I saw it when I watched your presentation, when I read the comments from strangers calling me a monster, when my own family turned their backs on me. She sat back down, wiping her eyes. I'll do what you asked, she said quietly. I'll write the letter, make the donation, admit everything. Not because I have to, but because you deserve that acknowledgement. You deserved it 19 years ago, and I failed you. I felt something crack inside my chest. Something that had been frozen for years, protected by layers of anger and hurt. Do you actually love me? I asked. Or are you just saying all this to avoid legal consequences? My mother met my eyes. I love you. I have always loved you. But I loved you badly, selfishly, in ways that hurt you instead of helping you. And I don't know if I can ever make up for that. You can't, I said, but you can try to do better going forward. We sat there looking at each other, mother and daughter, strangers who shared DNA and history, but little else. I accept your terms, my mother said finally. I'll write the letters, make the donation, acknowledge everything. And after that, if you never want to see me again, I'll understand. Okay, I said. The mediator drafted the agreement. My mother signed it. Her lawyer looked pained but didn't object. And just like that, after 19 years, I got what I'd always wanted. Acknowledgement that I mattered, that what happened to me was real and wrong. It should have felt like victory. Instead, it just felt sad. My mother's letter went out to the family 3 days later. It was honest, unflinching, and hard to read. She detailed the favoritism, the neglect, the deliberate choices she'd made to prioritize Noah over me. She admitted that the wedding budget had been more important to her than my medical care. She acknowledged that she'd failed as a mother in fundamental ways. The responses flooded in immediately. Some family members sent messages of support, for me, not her. Others were angry that she'd admitted so much publicly, worried about how it made the family look. A few tried to defend her, saying she'd been under stress, that everyone makes mistakes. But most just wanted to move forward, to rebuild relationships without my mother at the center. My grandmother called me that night. "I'm proud of you," she said, "for standing up for yourself, for demanding accountability. Not everyone has that kind of courage." "It doesn't feel like courage," I said. "It just feels necessary." "That's what courage is," she said, "doing what's necessary even when it's hard." The donation went through the next week, $15,000 to the Hearing Health Foundation, designated for young people who needed treatment they couldn't afford. The organization sent me a thank you letter, telling me how many lives that money would change. I read that letter over and over, thinking about how my mother had seen my hearing loss as a budget opportunity, and I'd turned it into help for others like me. Maybe that was victory after all. My hearing continued to improve. By month 3 of treatment, I could have phone conversations, listen to podcasts, follow along in group discussions. I still struggled in loud environments and needed quiet to concentrate sometimes, but I was functional in ways I hadn't been since the surgery. Dr. Rashid was amazed by my progress. "You're responding better than I expected," he said during a checkup. "Your brain is remarkably adaptive. With continued therapy, you might regain up to 70% of your original hearing." 70%, not everything but enough to feel whole again. I started dadding, tentatively, awkwardly, like I was learning a new language. I went out with a guy from my sign language class, then someone I met through work. Nothing serious, just testing the waters of what it felt like to be seen, wanted, chosen. It felt strange and wonderful and terrifying. My job at the nonprofit became more than just work. I started facilitating support groups for young people who'd recently lost their hearing, sharing my story, helping them navigate the grief and adjustment. I was good at it, good at seeing people who felt invisible, at making them feel heard. Ironic, given my history. 6 months after the wedding, Noah called. "Hey," she said when I answered, "are you busy?" "Not really. What's up?" "I wanted to tell you something. Cameron and I set a new wedding date." My stomach clenched. "Oh, when?" "Next spring. But Maren, it's going to be different this time. Small, intimate, just close family and friends. And I was hopping. I was wondering if you'd be my maid of honor." I was silent, processing. "I know I don't deserve it," Noah continued quickly. "I know I haven't earned back your trust yet, but I'm trying. I've been in therapy, working through my relationship with Mom, understanding my role in what happened to you. And I want you there. I want you standing beside me as my sister, as someone who matters." "What about Mom?" I asked. "She's not invited," Noah said firmly. "She won't be at the wedding, won't be involved in the planning, won't have any role in my life until she proves she's actually changed. This is my wedding, and I want it to celebrate the family I'm choosing, not the family I was born into." I thought about the invitation, about standing beside my sister at her wedding after everything that had happened. "Can I think about it?" I asked. "Of course, take all the time you need." I talked to Marcus about it that night. "Do you want to do it?" he signed. "I don't know," I signed back. "Part of me thinks it would be healing, a way to reclaim what was taken from me the first time, but another part thinks it's too soon, that I'm not ready to put myself in that position again." "Then don't," Marcus signed simply. "You don't owe her anything." "Maren, not forgiveness, not participation, nothing. You get to choose what's best for you." I sat with that for a week, thinking about choices and healing and what I actually wanted. Finally, I called Noah back. "I'll do it," I said, "but on one condition." "Anything." "If Mom shows up anyway, if she tries to insert herself back into your life or manipulate the situation, I'm gone. No drama, no scene, I'll just leave. Deal. Deal, Noah said, and I could hear the relief in her voice. Thank you, Maren, this means everything to me. After I hung up, I sat in my apartment, my real apartment now, with actual furniture and decorations and all the signs of a life being built, and thought about how far I'd come. 6 months ago, I'd been the invisible daughter, the one who didn't matter. Now I was someone's maid of honor, someone's employee of the month, someone's friend, ally, inspiration. I was seen, I was heard, I mattered. And that was the greatest revenge of all, not destroying my mother, but becoming someone despite her. The months leading up to Noah's new wedding were surprisingly peaceful. I helped with planning, real planning this time, not just addressing envelopes. Noah asked my opinion on flowers, venues, music. She involved me in decisions, listened to my ideas, treated me like someone whose input actually mattered. It felt strange at first, this new dynamic between us. But slowly, tentatively, we started to rebuild something that resembled a sisterly relationship. We met for coffee every week, talked about her relationship with Cameron, my job at the nonprofit, our separate journeys in therapy. She told me about cutting contact with our mother, about how hard it was but also how necessary. She keeps trying to call, Noah said during one of our meetings. Leaves voicemails saying she's changed, that she's in therapy too, that she wants another chance. But I can't. Not yet. Maybe not ever. That's okay, I said. You get to decide when or if you're ready. Nobody can tell you there's a timeline for forgiveness. Have you forgiven her? Noah asked. I thought about it carefully. No, but I'm not as angry anymore. It's more like sadness. Sadness for the mother we deserved but never had. Noah nodded, tears in her eyes. Yeah, that's exactly it. My grandmother remained the bridge between our fractured family. She had lunch with me every Sunday, video called with Noah weekly, and somehow maintained relationships with everyone without taking sides. How do you do it? I asked her one afternoon. Stay neutral, keep loving all of us. I don't stay neutral, she said. I'm very clear about who was wrong and who was hurt, but I also believe people can change, and I want to be there if and when your mother does the work to become someone different. Do you think she will? I asked. Actually change. I think she's trying, my grandmother said. Whether it's enough, whether it's real, time will tell. My mother sent me a letter about 8 months after the mediation. A real letter, handwritten, pages long. I almost didn't open it, almost threw it away without reading. But curiosity won out. She wrote about her childhood, her own mother who'd been cold and critical, the patterns she'd unconsciously repeated. She wrote about watching my presentation and seeing herself clearly for the first time. She wrote about the therapy she'd started, the work she was doing to understand why she'd favored one daughter over the other. At the end of the letter, she wrote, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I want you to know that I see you now. I see the woman you've become despite me, and I'm in awe. You are brave and strong and whole, and I had nothing to do with that. That's all you. I read that letter 3 times, crying through all of them. Then I put it in a drawer and didn't respond. Maybe someday I would. Maybe someday I'd be ready to have a relationship with the woman who'd given birth to me but failed to mother me. But that day wasn't today. My hearing continued to improve. I graduated from intensive therapy to maintenance appointments. Dr. Rashid was thrilled with my progress. I'd regained about 65% of my hearing, could function normally in most situations, had adapted remarkably well. You're one of my success stories, he said during my final intensive therapy session. I'm going to use your case to show other patients what's possible with dedication and treatment. Just don't use my name, I said. I've had enough viral fame for one lifetime. He laughed, and I could hear it clearly, the rich, warm sound of genuine joy. The week before Noah's wedding, I got an unexpected call from Cameron. Hey, Maren, he said. I wanted to talk to you about something before the wedding. Okay. Noah and I have been discussing it, and we want to establish a scholarship fund. for young people with hearing loss who need treatment but can't afford it, and we want to name it after you. The Maren Fox Scholarship for Hearing Health. I was speechless. You don't have to decide right now, Cameron continued. But we wanted your permission, your story, what you went through, how you fought for yourself. It inspired us. We want to help other people like you. Yes, I said, my voice breaking. Yes, you can use my name. Thank you, Cameron said. This means a lot to both of us. After I hung up, I sat in my apartment and cried. Good tears this time, healing tears. My mother had traded my hearing for a wedding that never happened. But I'd taken that pain and turned it into something that would help hundreds of people. That was the real victory, not revenge, not destruction, but transformation. Taking what was meant to silence me and turning it into a voice for others. Noah's wedding day arrived with clear skies and perfect weather. It was small, intimate, exactly what she and Cameron wanted. 50 people in a garden, simple decorations, focus on love rather than spectacle. The opposite of the first wedding in every way. I stood beside my sister in a dress she'd helped me pick out, watching her marry the man she loved. And for the first time in our lives, I felt like we were actually sisters. Equal, both valued, both seen. My grandmother cried through the ceremony. Marcus gave a toast that made everyone laugh. Cameron's vows mentioned learning to choose family rather than accept the one you're born with. When it was time for my maid of honor speech, I stood up and spoke from the heart. A year ago, I said, I would have told you that Noah and I weren't really sisters, that we were just two people who happened to share DNA and a painful history. But today, I can say honestly that she's my sister in all the ways that matter. Not because of blood, but because of choice. She chose to see me, to hear me, to do better. And that choice, that decision to break painful patterns and build something new, that's what family should be. I looked at Noah, saw tears streaming down her face. So congratulations to my sister and her husband. May your marriage be built on honesty, equality, and the courage to do better than the generation before you. Everyone applauded. Noah hugged me tight. Thank you, she whispered, for giving me another chance. Thank you, I whispered back, for taking it. The reception was joyful, relaxed, full of genuine celebration. I danced with Marcus, talked with Cameron's family, laughed until my face hurt. My hearing aid stayed in all night, and I caught every word, every laugh, every moment. Near the end of the night, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I'm outside. Can we talk? Just for a minute, please. My heart clenched. She wasn't supposed to be here, wasn't invited, had promised to stay away. I showed the text to Noah. Her face went pale. You don't have to go, she said immediately. I'll call security. It's okay, I said. I'll talk to her just for a minute. I walked outside to find my mother standing by the garden gate. She looked smaller somehow, older, wearing jeans and a simple shirt instead of her usual designer outfits. I'm sorry, she said immediately. I know I shouldn't be here, but I needed to see you, to tell you something. What? I asked, keeping my distance. I'm moving, she said. Out of state, starting over somewhere new where I'm not known as the terrible mother from that viral video. I'm selling the house, leaving my old life behind. Okay, I said neutrally. But before I go, I needed to say this in person. You were right about everything. Every accusation, every recording, every moment you documented, it was all true. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. She was crying now, and part of me wanted to comfort her out of old habit. But I stayed where I was. I don't expect forgiveness, she continued. I don't deserve it, but I want you to know that watching you rebuild your life, seeing the woman you've become, knowing about the scholarship and the work you do, it's made me realize what I threw away, what I could have had if I'd been a different kind of mother. You still can be, I said quietly. A different person, I mean, it's not too late to change. Maybe not, she said, but it's too late for us, isn't it? I thought about that question, about whether there was any path forward for a mother and daughter with our history. I don't know, I said honestly. Maybe someday, if you do the work, If you actually change, not just say you're changing. But right now, I need distance. I need to keep building my own life without you in it." She nodded, accepting. "That's fair, more than fair." We stood there in the garden, silent, two people who shared everything and nothing. "Goodbye, Maren," she said finally. "I'm proud of you. I wish I'd told you that more when you were growing up." "Goodbye, Mom," I said. She walked to her car and drove away. I watched until her taillights disappeared, then turned back to the wedding. Marcus was waiting by the door. "You okay?" he signed. "Yeah," I signed back. "I actually am." We went back inside to the celebration. And as I danced with my sister, laughed with friends, heard music that I'd thought I'd never hear again, I realized something profound. My mother had traded my hearing for a wedding, but in losing one thing, I'd gained so much more. I'd gained my voice, my independence, my strength, my ability to stand up for myself and others like me. I'd gained real relationships built on honesty rather than obligation, a sister who chose me instead of just tolerating me, a grandmother who saw me as more than the forgotten daughter, friends who loved me for who I actually was. I'd gained the knowledge that I could survive the worst thing I could imagine and come out stronger on the other side. My mother took my hearing, but I took back my life. And that was the greatest revenge of all, not hurting her, but living well despite her. The wedding ended in sparklers and laughter and hope. And when I went home that night to my apartment, my life, my future that I'd built entirely on my own, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. The story wasn't over. I still had therapy appointments, family relationships to navigate, a mother somewhere starting over who might or might not actually change. But the worst was over. The silence had been broken. The truth had been told. And I was free.